All right, so we have eight-time NEVA champion, new NEVA Hall of Famer, Chris Monroy.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
pleasure
you.
to have you here.
No, thank you for the opportunity. Seriously, thank you.
Of course. So yeah, I guess a good place to start. Just tell us about yourself. Who is Chris Monroy?
Who is Chris Monroy?
Let's hear it.
I'm a regular guy who doesn't sleep a lot. I need to keep going to stay sane, if you wish. I'm a criminal defense lawyer. Got admitted to the Massachusetts bar in 1996. And I'm also been a PBA member since 1994.
There you go.
And today, October 7th, is actually a very special day because it's the anniversary of when I won my PBA title.
Good for you. Regional title, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I beat Ryan Schaefer for it.
The Professional Bowling Association's East Region Tour stopped off in Waverly this weekend. It was 21-year veteran Schaefer taking on Chris Monroy in the finals of today's tournament. Schaefer brings 4 career titles under his belt, while Monroy still looking for that first golden win. And it was a back and forth battle all afternoon long, but in the end, Chris Monroy would snag his first career victory, and it was no doubt an emotional one for the Holden, Massachusetts resident.
Everyone just keep pushing you to be better and better than you can ever be. You know, it's a dream come true. That's all I can say. Just with hard work, anything is possible. That's all I can say. With hard work, anything is possible. Dreams do come true.
It's a day that still chokes me up.
I mean, right off the bat, let's talk about it.
That Friday that I was there, one of my very good friends and I, we had unfortunately gotten into it. I'd taken a little bit of teasing, a little bit more than I wanted, and it kind of upset me. I was almost going to withdraw that night. My coach Mark had taught me about taking my anger and frustration out on the pen. So I came out the next day and I was beyond livid. And I went qualifying. I went 322 over on Viper. We're at Valley Bowling Center in Waverly, New York, which at the time it was one of Ryan Schaefer's home houses. So the next day we came back. I Chris Blazin in the first round. It was up and down, up and down. I started off good, then I had nothing good, then I had nothing. And then I remember the next round, I moved to the high end. I was bowling against Nick Messino, multi-time regional champion. Yeah. And I got by him in 2 out of 3. I beat him for the first 2. I only had to bowl Ray Edwards after that. God knows how many regional titles he has, but also I believe he has 2 or 3 national tour titles.
Sure.
And I shot a high 240 game against him on, I think it was 15 and 16. I looked to my right and I remember seeing Ryan Schaefer coming over. It's like, I said, please don't beat me up too hard this game. And I remember Ryan honestly is a wonderful person. I know sometimes he gets a bad rap, but he's a wonderful guy and he's got a big heart. He goes, look, just bowl your very best and you'll be fine. It was the first time I'd ever been in a title match for a regional. He started out with 3 in a row. I went strike, 4 pin spare, strike, and then I got up on the fourth frame on lanes 17. I literally am going through the shot and the phone rings. And it's just like, it's on speaker, so it's not just like hearing a phone ring at the desk, it's like a phone ring across the whole house.
Did you get tilted over noises like that?
Yeah. At the time, they had the TV cameras there, as well as there were probably at least 50 to 100 people in the bowling center watching, rooting Ryan on. And I left at 3-6-9-10, and I had chopped it. I, at the time, had been really high up in points. I had been bowling really well. I'd been making a lot of finals, and I just couldn't get over the hump. So it's like, I figured, here we go again. This is going to be, this is it. Because Ryan is one of the toughest guys I know how to bowl. I mean, I remember I sat down, I punched my right leg as hard as I could. The next day, that it was literally like a black and blue in the shape of my fist. Yeah. All I know is then I put my head down. I hear doink. He went wide and left a big split. And he missed, so he comes up with these strikes. So now I've got like a max 240 game, and he's got a max 260 game.
Yeah.
I got up, and this is no joke, and this is probably one of the only times this ever happened. I literally saw red, and it almost like I had tunnel vision. It's like literally I couldn't see past anything except for this way. Next thing I know, I rattled off the next 5, and he had opened again, and then left a 4-pin in the middle of the match, and then I got up. In the 9th, I remember I struck. And I got up in the 10th, and truth be told, I had lost focus. I mean, I saw what the score was, and it's like I'm shaking. I figured when I just get the shot off, I left the 3-6-10, picked it up, and then threw the ball down the middle of the lane and started bawling my eyes out. I literally bawled like a little baby. That was a very special day. And the thing that I would just say more than anything is I remember I bowled against my best friend at the time, Chris Wood, and really great player from Connecticut. And he and I was still, he's moved away unfortunately, but we still keep in touch. He beat me in the round of 8 at Rome, New York, with a Brooklyn and a Messenger 10.
Really?
I called my coach Mark, and I had some very choice expletive words.
Yeah.
And after he gave me his series of choice expletive words, which beat my expletive words, and got me to calm down, he said, look, Chris, your turn is going to come, but when your turn is coming, don't force it. Just bowl. Just let it go. Just get it off your hand and just bowl. Don't think about anything. Just bowl. So I jokingly say that when that phone rang, that was the best wake-up call I ever had.
Yeah. You did mention Mark Ralph. Let's hear about your relationship with Mark through the years.
It's a coach, student, second father, child, closest friend relationship that honestly could never be replaced. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I took his death very hard. And I went through a period of about 6 months where I literally couldn't get out of my own way in bowling, to the point where I was making finals in NEBA, but I wasn't doing it well. And I was frying a lot, and I remember come Chicopee where literally nothing went right. And I lost it at Chicopee. And I went out of there basically in a ball of flames. I mean, I was just like, I remember just screaming at a couple of people how much I was done. That's it. I quit. My wife, who, I mean, honestly, she's a saint, Mary Elizabeth. She kept me on course. I'll also say, my best friend that I always talk about on Facebook, Holly, who lives up in Saco, Maine. She's the greatest, I call her my S-fam, sister from another mother, who I always talk about. Got my head back together, and then, of course, you did the interview with Steve Major, and I know he talked about that over-under doubles. Mm-hmm. I went into that over-under doubles with absolutely zero confidence. I mean, it's like he said he still wanted to bowl. I suggested to him, maybe you want to get another partner. It's like I remember he texted me right before we started, it's like, we're going to find a way to win this. I came in there, and it's like, somehow I went 255 over on that pattern for 5. And then it's like, started bowling finals. I remember the first match that we had was against Dennis Bissonette and Bill Green, both very tough competitors.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal players. And we beat them, and it's like all of a sudden, it's like everything that, I had been taught by Mark about winning and, being mentally strong and, being able to focus and just bowling through it, all started rushing back real quickly. Then I remember we had Joe Scanna and Anthony Fusco.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, I remember I went 3 in the 10th and set Steve up, and he did what he had to do. And it's like, I remember, he was starting to get a little nervous and whatever. And it's like, I remember after like the second or third frame of the title match, we were bowling Steve Blanchett and a solid righty. I'm drawing a blank on his name. Pulled him aside. I said, look, I expletive believe in you, kid. You can do this. And he rattled off at 249. I rattled off at 245, I believe. I remember after I threw my last shot, we gave each other a big hug. I went down the low end right by one night, because I was at such a low point in my life, and I just literally started bawling my eyes out.
Yeah.
And I remember Chris Forey came up, because he and I had a little talk beforehand. He knew what I was going through.
Yeah.
And he came. I said congratulations.
Yeah.
I gave him a hug and I said I miss my coach. And I promised my wife at the time that I was going to take 2 months off and not bowl to get my head right again, and I did. And then we had the doubles here with Dennis Bissonette and I. We were bowling Witch and Ryan Graywas.
Yeah.
And we were neck and neck all the way close. And I remember Witch got up. I'm fully expecting Witch because he's been so good for so many years and has never had an issue striking in the 10th when he needs it. And he gets up, labels the shot, and leaves a solid 9-pin.
Oh my God! Flush 9. Oh my God!
I remember that.
And I remember at that time, it's like, I screamed back. I just ran back to Dennis. I almost picked him up and I said something like, holy effing son of a bitch, or something like that.
Yeah.
And at that time, it's like I knew that, my coach Mark was still looking over me. I mean, there was no other way to explain that one.
Chris Monroy is in tears. He's going to, you gotta wonder if Mark Croft didn't have something to do with that shot.
Same thing when I bowled Tim Martin for the senior title in East Providence.
Yeah.
I mean, Tim is a phenomenal player. I mean, he hasn't gotten as many titles as he really should, but he's a quality player. He's a strong player. He has a very strong physical game. And, he's got a brain to go with it, too. I mean, just a great player, and I have a lot of respect for him. First shot after we warmed up, he was a 2-4-7. He chops a 2 off of the 4-7. I said, what are the odds hooking into a spare? You chop a 2 off of a 4-7.
Yeah, right?
So And then, of course, Keen.
Oh, yeah, yep.
Because I knew at the time, based on the way they calculate Hall of Fame points, I was still basically 4 points shy. So I still need to get one more title.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll just say this. I mean, it's like, not only has been a great friend of mine for years. I mean, we've been very good friends over the years, but he was also my student. Mm-hmm. And we've been doubles partners the day before, and we finished fourth. So it's like, I remember he had struggled on the left-hand lane. He had started with a 10 pin, and I think it was in the fourth, a 4 pin in the sixth, another 10 pin in the eighth. And then it's like, he could have forced me to double, and he left at week 7, picked it up, and then left a 5 count, left to Greek Church. I remember I just got up and just tried to remember everything, my coach Mark had taught me about being in situations like that, knowing that, excuse me, that might be my only chance to ever win another NEBA at age 51. It's like, I know that we all have expiration dates, so to speak, and it's like, this might be my only chance to not only win another singles title, but get into Hall of Fame for NEBA, which is a huge honor. Mm-hmm. And I remember I set myself, I took as little time as I could. And I remember I started my approach and I said, let's get this. And that was actually probably the best shot I had thrown all game, 10 in the pit. And I remember as I saw right before the ball went into the pins, I said, that's Hall of Fame. And then I yelled yes 3 times.
Flush it, and that's going to be that. And that is a winner. Chris Monroy winning, punching his ticket to the Hall of Fame. Denise Roth watching and wearing the Mark Roth shirt and the burnt toast. And Chris has worked so hard for this, he can barely breathe.
And like I said, that's a shot that I hope makes my coach proud upstairs.
It does. I know it does.
And that's pretty much who I am. I'm just a regular guy. I'm nothing special. All I'll just say is that I'm just a guy who has had the right people at the right time between, I don't talk about him as much because unfortunately I only had 3 years to work with my first coach, Rocky Lopes. Yeah. But he was the one who got my game started. It was through him that I got to meet my coach, Mark, who worked with me for 23 years. And no matter how big of a jerk I could be, no matter how impatient or juvenile I could be, Mark never turned his back on me. And that's something that I've never really had a lot of in my life. And, so I mean, I had the right type of support that way in bowling. And then in 2004, I remember my friend Noel Vega and Jonathan Van Hees, both of whom were on Hammer staff at the time, and I was looking to get on staff, putting a good word to me about me to Hammer. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I was Joe Farley's first sign as a Hammer staffer. Yep. And I'm forever thankful to Joe Farley. And then when EBI was bought out, Dave Wadkas continued to have his faith in me as a staffer. And then just other than that, I mean, just having between the technical support, obviously what we're doing here today with Bowl U, and learned a lot from that. And I'm sure you're seeing exactly what I've been talking about on a couple of champions messages.
100%, yeah.
And then just having the support of my wife, like I say, who puts up with a lot more than she should out of me. To be perfectly honest, she puts up with a lot more than she should have to. But she's a saint, and I love her. And my 2 kids, those are the reasons why I compete anymore. I still compete to set an example of what hard work and personal discipline can do for you. Because like I say, I started as a nothing and worked into a guy who turned out good.
Well, it's inspiring. As like a newer player in the sport, I'm sure I'm not alone in the sentiment. It's inspiring to see a guy like you bust your ass, quite frankly, and see where it gets you. Seriously.
Like I said, I'll always credit my help over myself. I'll credit the people, and then of course, especially in the last couple of years, like I said, my best friend Holly from Maine, she sent me a little threat text one night and having trouble getting started in tournaments, and so I turned myself around. I mean, she's just been a phenomenal friend, phenomenal sister from another mother. And between when you have a wife who loves you, and you've got that type of support behind you, with your kids, and then you've got a best friend who was always rooting for you. She's come to watch me a couple times up in Maine where I had a 4th and a 3rd, and just knowing that she was there rooting me on, and whatever. That's really what it takes. It's
what it's all about, isn't it?
As I've always said, on Champions messages, I don't do this alone. And when the formal Hall of Fame induction comes, I will make absolutely damn sure that the people who've been there for me get recognized, because in reality, it's about them, not about me. Before I forget, thank you for all you're doing for New England bowling. Nice to see that you highlight a lot of what our better players are doing here in the area. I mean, they got that page out in New York, whatever. that really doesn't cover into Connecticut and Massachusetts and Rhode Island, whatever. What you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. And to the extent that you're now featuring Steve Major. I saw the interview you did with Alex, and I made Purchase, who's going to be a superstar someday. I'm convinced of that. I mean, just
no pressure, Nate.
highlighting all the better players, and and even like older guys like me, whatever, who I'm still trying, and it's a great thing you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you who have made it what it is. Nothing without our whole community. It's about the whole community, and that's important to remember.
At the end of the day, I'll just say this: when I got married in 2010, the ones that I invited, 90% were all bowlers. And everyone in my wedding party were all bowlers. There was no one from the legal community. And that's how special the bowling community is. I mean, yeah, we sometimes have our spats and whatever, but in reality, the bowling community is one very special community to be a part of. And I'm thankful to have been able to be a part of it and to continue to be a part of it. And extremely fortunate to have been able to, make a little bit of a name for myself. And like I say, I will always credit those who taught me and who helped me and who support me over what I do for myself. It's just it's the way I was taught.
And I guess the last question I'll have for you, let's hear more about your life off the lanes, your family and lawyer stuff.
I mean, let me put it this way: lawyering, being a criminal defense lawyer, taking a lot of cases for the indigent, it's challenging work. It's very demanding work, but every now and then you get through to somebody and you reach them and you help them, and it's very rewarding in that sense. But obviously that takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, as an attorney, being in the office, doing reading, phone calls, research, emails, all that stuff, preparing for motions and trials.
Sure.
When I'm not there, because my whole day is pretty much in the office, and I come here and practice, to burn off some steam, to release some stress so I can come home, be with my wife and kids, help the little ones, with their homework, and, do their flashcards for math and multiplication, and, we read together, make sure we do reading every night, and then help my wife put them to bed, and then, if I'm lucky, maybe get 3 or 4 hours of sleep, and then be up for like 3:45, 4 in the morning to go to the gym to work out for a little bit, because that's the only way that I have a chance of keeping strong against the kids, because a lot of you young kids are absolutely phenomenal, and you're well trained, you're mentally well trained, and you're physically strong. That's the only way I can do it. And then, basically it's, lather, rinse, and repeat each day.
It sounds like you're a workhorse and you're relentless. Your family, your fitness, your bowling, your law practice. I mean, you fit it all in. It's crazy.
I mean, honestly, I don't rest. I mean, it was my favorite actor was Bill Bixby from The Incredible Hulk, and there was a quote that was once said about him that I think really basically describes me as well. It will take death to get me to rest.
Yeah.
It'll literally take death to get me to rest.
It's like, not to suck up to you or anything, and honestly, it is inspiring. I mean, you literally fit it all in, and you never miss a beat, and that's crazy, man.
Well, like I say, and I'll say it again, I've been very well taught. So, and again, thank you for all you do.
Yeah, and I think that all of us, we gotta thank you for all you do for us. I mean, you're one of the nicest guys out here, and just today at Bowl you were giving me tips. There's some NEBA Hall of Famers who, it's totally fine. They might be more reserved, but they don't feel the need to pass on the tips or whatever. You're not like that at all. You help people at the top of the hat, and that's very admirable.
I'll just say this, and I think it's very important that this be clear.
Sure.
My first coach, Rocky, basically never charged me.
Mm-hmm.
When Mark took over, he never asked for anything from me either. I remember it was like it was yesterday, because we were at the Novice Sportsman's Bowl in Schenectady. It was right after my first coach, Rocky, had passed away. It was in 1998. We're bowling a regional, and he literally comes up to, we're talking, actually Brendan, who was here earlier, another friend of mine from Jersey, Bob Rogers, was there, and, Mark and we were talking, and I told him, because we actually crossed next to each other at the PBA National Championship in Toledo a couple weeks before. Unfortunately, nobody told Mark that Rocky had passed away. They were very close friends back in the day. And Mark comes up to me and we're talking, and he goes, now who's going to teach you? And I said, honestly, I don't know. There's really nobody in this area that's going to teach me. I don't know what I'm going to do. He goes, I'll teach you. And literally my jaw just went like, I'm like, why? And I also said, how much? Because like I said, I just come out of law school. I had debt, and it's like trying to bowl and trying to make some money to bowl, and it's like I didn't have a ton of money at the time. And he goes, number one, no charge. And he goes, first of all, your first coach and I were very close friends. You're now my friend. I will finish Rocky's work. He goes, here's my phone number. Just come down to Jersey when I'm not on tour and we'll start working. And that's how it all started.
Wow. And you never hear about that. He just sounds like a hell of a guy.
I judge people based on how they treat me. You know, and I know over the years some things have been said about Mark that were not so nice. And all I'll say is that man has been absolute gold for me. And to this day, I still miss him a ton. I mean, thankfully, I've got a couple of his bowling balls, you know, in my basement downstairs. I have the ball that he threw on his last telecast in Peoria. He gave me that one. He was nice enough to give me the ball they threw out at the last plastic ball event they had in Cheektowaga in 2011. I have one of his old yellow dots that he used back on tour way back when in the day, and he gave me one of those in 1999. And my spare ball that I throw right now, actually, to commemorate his passing, what I had done was I had put out a request on Facebook if some people would give me some leads on how to get some either yellow dots, GTBs, or black rhinos, because that's what he threw a lot of, especially the yellow dots. Well, a number of people hooked me up with some yellow dots, and I got 2 15-pounders, so I drilled one and I basically copied the exact layout that had on his ball.
Okay.
So yeah, they're true. That's what I did. And of course, the first tournament that I used it in, which was the senior event in East Province, that's the one I won.
That's incredible. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
All I'll just say is this. I started as a guy who, you know, basically everyone made fun of. You know, truth be told, it's easy to pick on the short, fat kid. I get that. I used to come in here and people would make fun of me. You know, when I got my PBA card, I had one guy used to call me Hitchcock because I was shaped like Alfred Hitchcock. And, you know, he would make fun of me too. There were a couple other bowlers who still bowl here who, behind my back, were making fun of me. I was at least smart. I don't pretend to be the smartest man in the room.
Seems pretty smart to me.
But I was smart enough to trust what, you know, when Rocky said you can do it, and, you know, Mark was saying you can do it, I was smart enough to listen to them. I'll still say this. I remember to this day, like the last conversation I had with Rocky at Ellis Hospital in Schenectady in 1997, right before he passed away. And, you know, he had unfortunately lost part of his leg due to diabetes. And I remember I had gotten there early in the morning and they said, you know, hey, look, you can't come in, you're not family. I said, look, I'm a student of his, I'm a very close friend of his. I've traveled all the way from Massachusetts. I'd like to visit him. They went upstairs and they said, you know, the attendant came back and said, look, I'm very sorry. We didn't know you were his adopted son. Could you please come this way? Wow. So he got me in. Anyways, the last conversation that we had, I'm leaving the room and he goes, I know what you want. And I'm like, and mind you, I had never told him what I want because, I mean, Rocky was very strict, and having those type of things is like, we work hard, let's not have pie in the sky, let's work hard, and let's be the best that we can be.
Sure.
And he goes, I know what you want. I said, what's that? He goes, you want to win a PBA title, don't you? I said, yeah. Right? He goes, look, I'm not going to lie, it's going to be very hard for you to do it because of the fact that, you know, you're starting later than most people, you're bowling against people who've done it all their lives and on tour and whatever, and it's going to be a hard thing for you to do. But you've got a lot of heart, and you've got a little bit of a chip on your shoulder from having been picked on all your life. If you do everything I've told you to do, especially working on your head and everything I've tried to teach you about, you know, being mentally strong or whatever, someday you will get what you want. And it happened in 2007. Yeah. And so all I would say is this, and I actually put this on my Facebook page, is for anyone who's looking to get better, who's got dreams, who's got goals, who has aspirations to be whatever it is in bowling or anything in life. You know, whether you want to be a NEBA champion, whether you want to be a NEBA Hall of Famer, whether you want to be a PBA champion or go out on a national tour, whatever it is, give it all you got, work hard for it, always acknowledge those who've been good to you, and never forget where you came from. And with a little bit of luck, things will happen and dreams can come true. And whatever you do not listen to people who say you're not good enough or you can't. If there's one thing Mark always taught me is and he lived his life by, especially at the end, if they say I can't, I'll show you I can. And that's one thing he always taught me, as well as always wanting to have it more than, you know, wanting to have it more than somebody else. Mm-hmm. You got to want it more than the next person, as he used to say. Mm-hmm. And that's something really you can't teach. That comes from in here. Mm-hmm. And if there's one thing I do have, I don't pretend to have the greatest physical game in the world. What got me to where I am is just basically having a lot of internal hurt and anger, which I've been able to translate into knocking pins down. Mm-hmm. Instead of having it destroy me, and have it be a destructive force. It's a constructive force to knock pins down. And that's how I get done what I get done. If that makes any sense.
I love it. I get it. Yeah.
So whatever anyone wants to do, go for it. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do it, because with a little bit of hard work and and a little bit of luck, dreams can come true.
I second that. And it's been an honor, Chris. Thank you for doing
No,
this.
no, thank you so much. I appreciate taking the time.